Imagine this: you walk into a room, you don't say much, and yet eyes naturally drift toward you. You aren't trying to show off. You aren't even dressed in designer clothes. But somehow there's a quiet magnetism that pulls attention your way. It's not about looks alone. It's not about being the loudest, funniest, almost charming. It's something deeper, something that women notice before they can even explain it. The truth is, you might already be naturally attractive without even realizing it. But here's the catch: if you don't understand why, you'll sabotage yourself by chasing, over-proving, and giving away your power. Think about it. How many times have you noticed a woman looking at you a split second longer than necessary, but you brushed it off as nothing? Or maybe she keeps finding excuses to be near you, even if she says nothing. The world tells you attraction is about chasing harder, being smoother, or flexing wealth. But the men who truly stick in a woman's mind aren't the ones desperate to perform. They're the ones who radiate a certain calm, a quiet self-possession that makes her wonder, what is it about him? This is where most men destroy themselves. They don't believe subtle attraction is real. They think if she isn't openly flirting, then there's nothing there. So what do? They start over-investing, texting too much, offering too much, explaining themselves, trying to prove they're worthy of attention. And in that moment, the natural magnetism they already had collapses. She stops wondering about you. You become another guy fighting for approval. Here's what you need to understand: natural attractiveness is not about effort. It's about signals you send without words. The way you carry yourself, the way you don't react instantly to every little thing she does, the way your eyes hold steady instead of darting around nervously. Women are highly attuned to these cues. Long before they know if you have money or status, they feel your presence. And if you don't believe that presence matters, look at the men who never say much but still get noticed. That isn't luck. That's an aura built on inner control. But attraction doesn't survive without strategy. If you're naturally appealing, women will test you harder than the average man. She'll withdraw suddenly just to see if you panic. She'll flirt with another guy in front of you to check if you crumble. She'll delay replies, not because she's busy, but because she wants to see whether you lose composure. If you're unaware of these games, you'll fall into the trap every time. You'll chase harder, reassure her, prove yourself, and in that moment, she knows she has control. The counter is indifference, not fake indifference, not the performance of pretending you don't care, but the genuine ability to stay calm and centered no matter what she does. If she pulls back, you don't chase. If she flirts with someone else, you don't flinch. If she delays her replies, you simply live your life and respond on your terms. That is when she realizes you are not like the others. That's when her curiosity deepens, because you're not bending to her games. You've probably experienced this before without realizing it. Maybe a woman once told you she couldn't stop thinking about you, and you didn't understand why. Maybe she chased you harder after you stopped giving her constant attention. That wasn't an accident. That was the power of not trying so hard. It's proof that attraction often grows in silence, in restraint, in the moments when you do less, not more. Now ask yourself, how many times have you destroyed your natural appeal by over-explaining yourself? Or by giving her too much, too soon? How many times did you panic when she went cold, instead of letting her come back on her own? And how different would things feel if you could sit with the discomfort? If you could stop rushing to fix every shift in her mood? Because here's the truth: when you're naturally attractive, women are drawn to your mystery. The moment you explain everything, chase everything, and give away all your attention, the mystery dies. Your greatest weapon isn't what you give, it's what you withhold. Have you ever recognized yourself in this exact situation? What happened next? Which one of these traps over-chasing, over-explaining, or over-investing? Do you fall into the most? What's the hardest part for you, staying silent or resisting the urge to fix it when she pulls away? Think about the last time you walked away from a conversation with a woman and couldn't stop replaying it in your head. Maybe she laughed at something you said. Maybe she touched your arm for a moment. Maybe she held eye contact a second too long. For her, those moments are deliberate. Attraction for women isn't always shown directly. It's revealed in fragments, in testing, in silence. And if you're not paying attention, you'll miss the signals she's broadcasting and convince yourself you need to do more. But here's the brutal truth. The more you do, the less she feels. Attraction thrives on tension, not on constant reassurance. Let me paint the picture. You're at a bar with friends. A woman stands near your group. She doesn't say much, but she positions herself in your line of sight. She makes an unnecessary comment just to draw your response, and when you reply with calm detachment, she lingers. That's attraction in its raw form. But most men kill it by instantly escalating, by throwing out jokes, by flooding her with attention to secure a clear reaction. They don't realize the attraction was already there. All they needed to do was hold steady, let it breathe, let her curiosity grow. This is where your natural attractiveness shows itself. It's not in chasing, it's in restraint. When you don't react to every flicker of her behavior, when you let her energy come to you, you project quiet authority. You communicate without saying a word, that you're not starving for attention, that you've seen this before, and that her beauty doesn't shake you. That's when she begins to wonder why. Why aren't you like the others? Why don't you jump at every opportunity to prove yourself? And that wonder is the seed of obsession. But here's where the trap sharpens. The very women who are drawn to your natural presence will also be the quickest to test it. They need to know if it's real. They'll say something provocative just to see if you react. They'll withhold affection to measure your patience. They'll create little storms to test your stability. And if you fail, if you flinch, if you show them that your calm was only surface level, the attraction collapses. That's why so many men get ghosted after things seem to be going well. They reveal their weakness too soon. So what's the counter? You don't fight her games with more games. You fight them with consistency. If she withdraws, you don't chase. You give her space and stay on your path. If she tests you with jealousy, you don't react. You stay composed, as if it doesn't penetrate your frame. If she tries to bait you into over-explaining, you cut your words in half and let silence carry the weight. The moment you stop trying to prove yourself is the moment she begins proving herself to you. Let's make this practical. Say you're texting a woman and she suddenly stops responding for hours. The average guy panics. He double texts. He tries to send something witty. He checks if she's online. That's weakness. A man who understands natural attraction doesn't move. He waits. If she's interested, she'll come back. If she doesn't, he hasn't lost anything. His time is still his energy untouched. That is how you maintain power in a world designed to strip it from you. Another example, you're on a date, and she starts telling a story about how many guys are into her. She's watching your reaction closely. Do you laugh nervously? Do you get defensive? Do you try to stand out from those men? If you do, you've lost. The right move. You nod, smile faintly, and change the subject like it doesn't register. That silence tells her more than words ever could. It tells her you don't compete, you don't audition, you let her play her little games, but you never step off your throne. You see, natural attractiveness isn't fragile. It doesn't need to be defended with constant performance. It's like gravity, it pulls without effort. But the moment you forget this and try to prove yourself, you turn off the very thing that made her curious. Attraction is built on the unknown, on the things left unsaid, on the tension that lingers between what she sees and what she imagines. And here's the deeper truth: women respect what they can't fully control. If you bend to every mood swing, if you jump at every breadcrumb of attention, she owns you. But if you stay steady, if you let her storm rage and remain unmoved, she begins to orbit you. She starts to invest more, not because you demanded it, but because you forced her to feel the one thing women secretly crave but never admit: uncertainty. So let me ask you, how often do you ruin your own power by overreacting when she tests you? How many times have you fallen into her trap because you thought silence meant rejection? And what would change if, the next time she pulled back, you did absolutely nothing? Have you been in situations where you felt her attention but still chased out of fear? When was the last time a woman tested you? And how did you respond? Do you think you could sit in silence, even when your instincts scream to chase? Picture this: you're sitting across from her at dinner. She leans back, crosses her arms, and suddenly goes quiet. You feel the air shift. Most men panic in this moment. They think they've done something wrong, so they rush to fill the silence with apologies, jokes, or explanations. But here's the truth: she isn't always upset. Sometimes she's testing. Sometimes she's creating tension to see if you can hold it. And if you can't, if you stumble over yourself trying to smooth the moment, you reveal what she feared: that your calm presence was just a mask. Attraction lives in tension. It's not the constant stream of words or affection that keeps her hooked. It's the space between. It's the unanswered question. It's the feeling of not fully having you, even when she's sitting right there. Women won't admit this openly, but they thrive on the suspense of wondering how much of you they truly hold. And when you collapse that mystery by oversharing or overgiving, the game is over. This is why the men who get remembered aren't the ones who said the most or gave the most. They're the ones who gave just enough, then pulled back. They're the ones who left her guessing, the ones who didn't explain themselves every time she shifted moods. That unpredictability is intoxicating, not because you're playing childish games, but because you're anchored in yourself instead of anchored in her approval. Let me give you a story. A man I coached once was dating a woman who constantly tried to shake his frame. She'd go cold mid-conversation. She'd mention other men. She'd tease him with half compliments. In the past, he would have chased, he would have tried to win her validation. But I told him one thing: sit still. Don't react. Let her silence hang. The next time she pulled back at dinner, he simply leaned back, took a sip of his drink, and said nothing. 10 seconds of silence passed. She shifted in her chair, uncrossed her arms, and started talking again, this time softer, more vulnerable. Why? Because she realized her little test had no power over him. His composure told her more about his strength than any clever words could. That's the essence of natural attraction. She feels that you are unshaken. It's not arrogance. It's not coldness. It's quiet confidence rooted in the fact that your value doesn't come from her reaction. You know who you are, whether she validates it or not. That's magnetic. That's rare. And that's why women who encounter it don't forget it. But here's the danger if you don't recognize this dynamic. You'll constantly sabotage yourself. You'll interpret her silence as rejection instead of a test. You'll see her hesitation as disinterest instead of curiosity. And you'll react in ways that kill the very attraction she felt. You'll chase harder, text faster, pour more energy into trying to convince her. And every time you do, you teach her she can control you with less. The strategy here is brutally simple. Stop rushing to fill the silence. Stop rewarding her tests with instant validation. Stop thinking every shift in her energy demands a performance from you. Instead, lean into the tension. If she goes quiet, let the quiet expand. If she flirts with someone else, let her, because the moment you overreact, you show her that her games work. But if you stay calm, if you keep your composure, she eventually has to break her own pattern and return to you. This doesn't mean being passive. It means being selective. You don't chase every moment. You don't answer every mood swing. You don't audition for approval. You choose when to engage and when to hold back. That balance, the ability to give and then withdraw without losing yourself, is what keeps her drawn in. And let's be real, this takes discipline. It's easy to talk about composure, but in the moment, when your ego feels threatened, your instincts scream to react. The man who wins is the one who resists that impulse. The one who knows his silence is stronger than his words. The one who lets her feel the weight of not having all of him. Now pause and look at your own patterns. How many times have you ruined attraction because you couldn't sit still? How many moments of tension did you collapse because you were uncomfortable? And how many women slipped through your fingers not because you lacked appeal, but because you gave it away too fast? Have you ever noticed how much harder she chased you when you stopped over-explaining yourself, which feels more uncomfortable to you, holding silence, or watching her give attention elsewhere? If you're honest, what's the one moment you always overreact to, and how has it cost you? Some women will never say it out loud, but they crave the man they cannot fully possess. It's not cruelty, it's not manipulation, it's psychology. When she senses you are slightly out of reach, her mind works overtime to close the gap. That's when she invests. That's when she imagines. That's when she chases. But when you hand yourself over too quickly, when you answer every text immediately, when you shower her with attention she hasn't earned, her brain goes silent. There's nothing left to solve, nothing left to wonder about. And without that wonder, attraction fades. Here's what you need to face. Women are experts at reading your level of need. They know when your compliments are genuine versus when you're fishing for validation. They know when your attention is a gift versus when it's a bribe. They know when you're grounded versus when you're secretly terrified of losing them. They can feel it without a word. And that's why the men who are naturally attractive aren't the ones trying to please, they're the ones who can walk away. Walking away doesn't always mean ending things. It means you can detach in the moment. If she plays with your emotions, you don't explode. If she delays her reply, you don't chase. If she withdraws, you don't collapse. You let her feel the space, because that space reveals everything. If she values you, she'll step back in. If she doesn't, she drifts away. And both outcomes protect your dignity. But most men refuse to accept this truth. They cling, they negotiate, they bargain with attention. They confuse overinvestment with loyalty, not realizing they've turned themselves into an emotional beggar. The irony is, the more you give without boundaries, the less she values it. She starts to take your presence for granted. She stops respecting your time. She pushes further just to see how far you'll bend. And every time you bend, she loses a little more respect. The fix isn't about being colder or harder. It's about control. Control over yourself. Control over your impulses. Control over your need to fix and explain and please. Natural attractiveness radiates from men who don't get pulled into every emotional wave a woman creates. They know how to stand still in the storm. That stillness makes her feel both safe and challenged at the same time. Safe because you're steady, challenged because she can't shake you. That duality is what keeps her hooked. Let's get tactical. Imagine she suddenly accuses you of not caring enough. This is a trap. If you rush to defend yourself, If you list out everything you've done, if you pour out reassurance, you lose. The better response: look her in the eye, stay calm, and simply say, "I'm here. You can believe it or not." Then go quiet. That one line, delivered with composure, flips the frame. You're not pleading for her trust. You're letting her decide if she's capable of giving it. That's power. Or picture this: she cancels plans last minute, expecting you to rearrange your life around her next availability. The weak move is to act unbothered while secretly boiling inside, then rushing to reschedule on her terms. The strong move: acknowledge it lightly. "No worries. I use the time for myself." Then don't offer an immediate reschedule. Let her bring it up. You've communicated without a lecture that your time has value. You didn't punish her, but you didn't reward her either. That balance is what sets you apart. Every one of these moments is a choice between control and collapse, between staying grounded or scrambling for approval. And here's the uncomfortable truth: she is more attracted to the man she can't fully predict than the one who's always available. Predictability breeds boredom. Restraint breeds obsession. But obsession only grows when you hold your frame. The frame that says, "I am my own source of value. You can come closer if you want, but I don't bend for attention." The frame that says, "I enjoy you, but I don't need you." The frame that says, "Your tests are just noise, my focus is bigger than this moment." When you embody that, attraction isn't something you chase, it's something you command. Now, I want you to turn this inward. How many times have you mistaken over-giving for strength? How often have you thought loyalty meant self-sacrifice, only to feel drained and resentful in the end? And what would your relationships look like if you replaced all that chasing with quiet composure? Have you ever caught yourself bargaining for her attention without realizing it? When she last pulled back, did you hold steady or did you cave? If you were honest with yourself, what would she respect more, your effort or your restraint? There's a brutal truth most men never want to hear. Women are not attracted to effort alone. They're attracted to impact. A man who tries too hard without creating impact just looks desperate. A man who does less but carries weight with every move appears magnetic. That's why you've seen situations where a guy barely lifts a finger and yet women orbit around him, while another man exhausts himself chasing and gets ignored. It's not fair, but it's real. And the difference isn't looks, money, or luck, it's presence. Presence is the silent message that says, "I'm enough without you, and I'll be enough after you." When you radiate that, women can't help but lean in. They test to see if it's real, but deep down, they crave the steadiness of a man who isn't blown around by their storms. That's why natural attractiveness often shows up in the men who seem least concerned with proving it. Their energy speaks before their words do. But here's where many men fall apart. They confuse natural attraction with passivity. They think, if I just sit back and do nothing, she'll come to me. Wrong. Natural attractiveness isn't laziness. It's the combination of calm restraint and decisive action when it matters. You don't chase, but you also don't hesitate. You don't flood her with attention. But when you choose to give it, it's deliberate, it's sharp, and it lands. That's what keeps her attention locked on you. Take this example: she texts you something vague late at night, clearly fishing for attention. The average guy jumps in with paragraphs, emojis, and questions. The naturally attractive man, he replies with one simple, confident line, or he ignores it until the next day. Not because he's playing games, but because he values his time and chooses when to engage. That choice makes his attention more valuable, and value, not volume, is what drives her desire. Another scenario: you're out with her and she playfully criticizes something about you, waiting to see if you'll get defensive. The insecure man scrambles to defend himself or flips into self-deprecating humor to win her back. The grounded man simply smiles, maybe throws back a light tease, and moves on. He doesn't let her words cut deeper than they should. In that moment, she realizes she can't shake his core. That unshakable center is pure attraction. This is the core strategy. Stop trying to eliminate every doubt she has about you. Let her doubts exist. Let her wrestle with them. Because the more she wrestles, the more she invests. If you rush to reassure every time she questions you, you take away the very process that builds her attachment. You rob her of the tension that fuels attraction. Think about the men women obsess over. They're not the ones who delivered every compliment, every answer, every ounce of attention on demand. They're the ones who left room for uncertainty, the ones who didn't collapse under pressure, the ones who forced her to lean forward and figure them out. That's why restraint is not weakness, it's strategy. A strategy that keeps her chasing when every other man is begging. Now let's be clear, this doesn't mean being manipulative or withholding out of spite. It means you stop selling yourself. You stop auditioning. You stop making her comfort more important than your own dignity. You let her feel the friction of not fully owning you. That friction is what keeps the fire alive. If you can embody this, every interaction shifts. Suddenly, you don't care if she delays her reply because you're busy. You don't flinch when she tests you because you expect it. You don't crumble when she withdraws because your worth isn't tied to her mood. And that's when she starts investing more, not because you forced her, but because she chooses to. Attraction rooted in choice lasts longer than attraction you begged for. So ask yourself now, how many times have you been the man over-delivering, over-explaining, over-chasing, thinking that effort alone would earn her desire? How much energy have you wasted trying to prove your value, when your silence would have said more? And how different would your dating life look if you stopped auditioning altogether and started living like a man who doesn't need the part? Have you been guilty of mistaking effort for impact? Which situation do you replay most in your head? The one where you chased, or the one where you held back? And if you stopped auditioning tomorrow, who would actually start auditioning for you? She didn't break you. She revealed what you were too afraid to protect.